coming out of SmackDown last week, a segment that I've spoken quite a bit about in the last few days here on the channel, specifically on Tuesday's #AskGSM video. The Charlotte Flair, Tiffany Stratton face-off on Friday's SmackDown from last week. Not a great segment. I loved it because it went so far off the rails and they got personal. That's exactly what I want to see more of out of this feud. But it does beg a bigger question, not really pertaining specifically to Charlotte and Tiffany, but just the greater women's division in WWE. Why are the women's promos a lacking department for that company? You know, and I don't think it's, I will say off the bat, before I get any criticism or feedback of being sexist towards the women specifically. I mean, the men's promos aren't always great either, but I'm saying the women's promo specifically, the last couple of years, although it's improved, it's still an Achilles heel for this company as far as why they're not as good as they should be. And I think there's a lot of different factors to consider between the talent themselves, which is hardly the problem, I would say, because I've spoken to a lot of these women in like outside of the ring interviews, like out of character interviews, and they're usually pretty good, comfortable, whatever. So I don't really think it's them. And we know some of them can cut great promos. I think a lot of it comes down to the writing, lack of female representation on the writing team, the lack of maybe storylines that they're given to make good promos out of, a lack of good material. There's a lot of different factors to consider, but I'll throw it to you, Alexis. Again, you were the one that brought up this question in the first place, as far as the women's promo being a point of contention in this company, and I thoroughly agree. Although it has improved post-Vince, pre-Vince, while Vince was there, it was fucking terrible. It still remains an issue nonetheless. So give me your perspective and why you think it's a problem and how it can be fixed.
I feel like it's a problem because, and I already brought this up to you the other day, because I think the company is like a creature of habit. So like if things work, they're going to keep doing it. Or if they've been doing something the same way, they're going to continue to do it the same way. Unless it's like glaringly obvious that it doesn't work. So I feel like one of the main reasons why they haven't improved is because they just haven't gone out of their way to like treat the women's promos the same way that they treat the men's promos or how they do it on the mic. Like, I feel like and I was saying this to you the other day, there's no female CM Punk on the mic. There's no female Cody Rhodes. There's no, like, I don't know, like Randy Orton, like insert anybody, any of the men that are really well spoken on the mic. There's nobody on the female side right now on the current roster that you could say, oh yeah, like they're just as good as so-and-so on the mic.
In WWE specifically,
yes.
I'll get to AEW in a moment.
In WWE specifically. And like I said, I feel like a main reason is like, oh, the women have never been like treated that same way in the past, like on the mic. So why start now? And it's not like they're actively thinking that. I just feel like they're like the company is used to doing what they've been doing. So why do something differently? Like the only reasons why I think we're even talking about this is because of Tiffany and Charlotte and how they brought elements of realism into that segment, which is what the men do a lot. They do it a lot, and that
should have already been scripted, I would say, into the segment.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if Charlotte's not comfortable with bringing up the divorces thing. I'm not saying they have to bring up, like, Ludwig Kaiser. Someone asked me on Twitter the other day, after I wrote about that segment, before we get back to what you were saying, they asked me, should Kaiser be incorporated into the angle? I said no. No, we don't need to actually bring him in. And then he comes
not physically.
At some point, can he be aligned with Tiffany on television? Yeah, I think that'd be cool. But does he need to be out there and they're fighting over him? That would actually be a step backwards. That's not what I'm advocating for.
Right.
You know, we don't need to see the women fighting over the men or going over, like, cat fight type, you know, stereotypical women, like what women fight over type thing. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean? But I'm just getting that extra layer of realism. And to your point, I would think that is exactly what the women's promos need more of.
Yeah, exactly. And they need less scripting. I feel like
if they can handle it, though, some women do need scripting, to be fair.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's so interesting to me because when we were watching, like, we've been watching LFG, so many of those women have such a natural charm for, like, just talking off the cuff. And if they can do it, why can't, like, any of those women on the current roster do it? Like, what's stopping them?
Yeah.
And I feel like it has to do with how they train them. like once they get to NXT and what they've been doing and how they kind of, I mean, unfortunately, I feel like they kind of put the women's division on the back burner a little bit, or they put them obviously below the men because you have men like Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, John Cena, Cody Rhodes, sometimes The Rock once a year, once a decade. So it's like, but again, it goes into that whole idea of, oh, we've always been doing it this way, so why do it differently? And the only time I think that was different, and this doesn't even relate to promos, but the only time that was different was the whole Ronda Rousey reign in 2018 or something.
Was better what was better?
Like the women's division was like, it was really
treated as more of a priority.
Yes, exactly. And then it led into the triple threat main event into Mania 35 in 2019. But that was about as good as it got. And then they had Evolution. But again, it's like we're putting that on the back burner because they have so many better ideas in the men's division. But why is that? Again, because they've just always been doing it that way. So why do it differently?
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting question to bring up, and we discussed this the other day, and honestly, we both struggle to come up with an answer. We'll look back at the chat here in a moment. We're not ignoring you. I just want to discuss this before we get distracted by people definitely saying, I'm sure, positive things in the chat as far, or not positive, but constructive feedback as far as this goes. I want to hear what you guys have to say as far as what you think the issue is with the women's promos. I'm not even shitting on it. I'm just have a genuine question. This is a real conversation I think needs to be had as far as how these things can be improved. Because a lot of people shit on that Charlotte Tiffany segment. And people said, oh yeah, they don't have a great chemistry on the mic. That is clear. That is evident. I agree with that. But my bigger problem is that you can say that for a lot of the promos being cut. Now I would say, I think the women and the men, this is not exclusive to the women, but it is worth mentioning, that I think in WWE specifically, they fall victim to must-end promo with catchphrase.
Yeah.
Like, to incorporate the catchphrases into a promo is fine. You got to get shit over. That's what people remember. Mommy's always on top, blah, blah, blah. But, like, Rhea Ripley's become a victim of WWE corporate, character. And Randy Orton has done the same thing for decades. But I'm not saying he should get away with it because it's Randy Orton. Including him in this as well. Must end every promo with a catchphrase. I mean, I feel like that you wouldn't do that in real life. You know what I mean? If it's a backstage interview or something like that, they were doing that in the 80s. You gotta take what works and ditch what doesn't work. And with the women's promo specifically, what I was going to say a moment ago, the question that we were asking ourselves, who would be considered the best talker in WWE for the women today?
Becky Lynch. Now.
Becky Lynch, I would probably say,
yeah,
but she's not currently on television.
Exactly. So that's like our main issue, because when we were talking about this the other day, again, I was sitting there saying, who is the female CM Punk right now? I mean, not exactly the equivalent, but like who would that be that takes like elements of realism, or that is very natural on the mic, comfortable, is able to tell a story just by talking in the mic for like 2 minutes. Becky Lynch, but she's not even here.
I assume they don't. I don't work at WWE. I don't work at the PC or anything. But I mean, I would have to think that in these promo classes that they put the men and the women together. Because I'm thinking it also has to come down to the development of this talent and what they're teaching them to say and not to say on the mic. I don't know, because it might be a men's issue as well. I mean, but we watched LFG. There's a lot of people speaking from the heart. Both the men and women were cutting great promos. But it's even an issue on NXT. It's not even like it's a main roster problem. I mean, I know this is an isolated incident, but there was that segment last summer with Roxanne Perez and Lola Vice. The actual match was fine, but the promo that they cut was just... Roxanne she was fine. She was okay. She's actually improved in the mic a lot as a heel in NXT. But Lola Vice's promo, made no sense. She was trying to cry, didn't work. I think her specifically, she just might not be a great talker. But it's not like I could sit here and say, oh, there's these blowaway talkers in NXT that I can't wait to see in a verbal battle on the main roster with X, Y, and Z. No pun, no rhyme intended there. But, they have a lot of great women, but I feel like they're not, there's a lot of basic formulaic segments where one just interrupts the other that we then see, carry on to the main roster, that they're not giving these women enough depth. So I feel like it's a PC problem, because some women and some men do have to be scripted and they make the most of what they're given. I completely agree with that. But in AEW, I don't really feel as it's enough of an issue with the women. I'm not talking the overall promo skills, because AEW definitely had the upper hand in the promo department for a very long time. over WWE because WWE shit for everybody was overly scripted and it was terrible. And now it's kind of comparable. I think WWE might have the edge in that department promo-wise. But with the women, Toni Storm clearly is not given a script. Now, her shtick may not necessarily be for me. And I think Timeless Toni Storm is great, but like a lot of the risque stuff that she says, it's supposed to be funny. Doesn't really land with me personally. But it lands with a lot of people, and it's very entertaining, and she's clearly doing it off the cuff, and she's an example of someone that can come up with shit on the fly and do an amazing job. And she's probably the best talker that they have by a wide margin, honestly, in any company currently. I think Roxanne has improved a lot, like I said.
She still sounds Roxanne sounds very much like Rhea Ripley-esque, like she
gives me more AJ Lee vibes as far as, I mean, that's who she kind of grew up watching, so I could see why she would model her promos after her. Cora Jade is good. I mean, no one really stands out as being like a CM Punk, like Alexis said, or like a Rock, or like a Cody Rhodes, who
LA Knight,
Kevin Owens. When I know they can go out there and cut a great promo, we just don't. Is it them not being given the opportunities to show what they could do on their own without being scripted?
I think that might be a part of it, though, because I was just thinking about this a minute ago. How do these men have the opportunity to have such amazing promos? Because the stories that are being told make sense and they're good. They're good stories, i.e. like all the head of the table bloodline stuff that had a lot of good mic time for a lot of people involved. Seth and CM Punk, like, great story. Like, the list goes on and on and on. Where do the women's stories start? Like, they have the Bianca, Jade, and Naomi thing, but like that story is so convoluted and went on for very long. I mean, I know it was for reasons that they really couldn't control, right? It was like Jade being injured.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, Naomi did a good job on the mic there, like when she kind of turned, but it's not the same. And again, I think it has to do with the way they're training them. And I feel like they might just not see it the same as they see the men's division. And I'm not saying that like, oh, it's a sexist company or whatever, but like, will we ever get on that level? I don't know. I don't think so, unfortunately. 'Cause it's like for example, the women's Royal Rumble always opens the show. Why does it always open the show? Because it's not as good. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say that. It's not like...
That's actually not true, because the women's Rumble was better than the men's Rumble.
No,
it's not
I didn't mean it like that.
over the men's.
Exactly. It's not like
the storylines. I mean, look at WrestleMania card this year, which I'm going to get into later on. A lot of matches made official for Mania that weren't already official. There was no chance. Like, there's been a lot of conversation, and we even talked about it, like which match in Main Event Night 1. RJ and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. There is no doubt in my mind that Women's World Championship match, despite the talent on paper, and that match should be excellent, the triple threat, now official, the Io Sky, Bianca, and Rhea Ripley, no chance that was closing the show. Not because of sheer talent, but because the storyline has sucked, and they have better options. If they didn't have better options, then it would probably go with that. Tiffany and Charlotte should also go out there and have an amazing match. But the feud, up until even then, people would still say it's been struggling. But I would say up until the segment last week, and what they did maybe the week before that as well, was not good. Like, it was not good enough to justify them going on last on either night of WrestleMania. And I don't want to say that. I want to sit here and say that Bianca, Rhea, and Io should be main eventing night 1 of Mania. Or Charlotte and Tiffany, specifically because Charlotte won the Women's Royal Rumble. But it just can't, because I think the men's triple threat match, even without anything on the line, is currently more interesting. And again, I need to preface it with this. I don't fault the women for that. I mean, to a certain degree, it does come down to them, and certain people are just not good talkers. I mean, she's not there anymore. She's in TNA. She's improved. But Ash by Elegance in TNA / Dana Brooke in WWE, her promos were not good. Ronda Rousey, I mean, we watched the compilation. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, because at least she tried to go kind of off the cuff. She's just not that good at it is the problem, and a lot of the promos she was cutting specifically during her second run were fucking terrible. The first time around weren't awful. The second time around just was not good. But a lot of women I do feel like have the talent. Like, there was that segment, to Alexis's point, with Bianca and Naomi a couple of weeks ago, but Naomi, just even beyond that segment, in vignettes that I've seen, there was that video package that they did on SmackDown a week or two ago with her like laughing like crazily. Thought that was great. I think she does a great job in the pre-taped environment, even in front of the camera as well. But that is because there was a story at hand that allowed them to tell this story and have a great promo. Bianca and Naomi were out there having this great segment because they had the storyline to back it up. And it also felt real with them kind of talking over each other. You're not going to do that every time, but I feel like for that certain circumstance, it worked.
Right. And Charlotte and Rhea, when they had the Mania match, it didn't close, right? I mean, I have a terrible memory. But
Charlotte and Rhea?
Yeah. It
opened
opened or something?
No, it was second or third to last. It was the semi-main. The tag team match went on last.
Well,
the Usos and
obviously
Sami Zayn and
you're
Owens.
like, and there comes especially when it comes to like Mania or other pay-per-views, there comes the conversation of you're gonna put something in the main event if it makes sense, if it calls for it. So obviously, that was at LA, right?
Yes, that was 2 years ago.
So obviously, the tag team match definitely called to be the main event, but why? Because they spent so much time telling that story and they told it really, really well. But the problem is they're putting all of their eggs in that, especially at that time, they were putting all of their eggs in that one basket. And again, it was like cinematic type stuff. And that was an amazing match and it was a lot of fun to watch. But had they not done that per se, and had they like put more attention into Charlotte and Rhea, because like, this is the problem. And I remember being disappointed at the time. They had so much like ammunition for that story. Like they could have told it so much like more in depth. They had so much like footage from NXT and like all the other matches they did. And I know they did kind of tell that, but they didn't do it as well as they should have. Like if that was CM Punk and Seth Rollins at the time, like it obviously would have been a lot more thought out. Like they would have taken their time with it more. They would have like I don't know. They just would have done a better job of it. And I don't know why that is. It's like they don't prioritize them or something. Cause it's like Rhea and Charlotte, still referring to that match, like they're two of the most popular women that they have there in the company, in the entire company. And that match, that was their, third match together? Third or fourth?
They had had a lot of matches prior to that point.
Yeah.
Their second Mania match.
Yeah. And, like, the story deserved better storytelling.
I mean, can you remember a single promo segment they had in the lead up to that Mania? Because I can.
No.
I can name at least 2 or 3 different segments that Owens and Zayn had with the Usos and Roman Reigns that people would remember and stand out in their memory. I think the story is a big chunk of the problem.
Yes. I mean, but what I'm saying is, like, even when they do have a good foundation for an impeccable story, like they do for the men, they do it really well for the men, but for the women, they completely drop the ball.
Yeah, I would also mention this too. I think Mariah May is also an amazing talker. She did a great job during the Toni Storm storyline, and that was definitely one of the best storylines they've ever had. Female or male, it doesn't matter. And this story is a big part of it. I think the talent also has to be there, but I think Rhea has become comfortable enough to where she should be at that level. Not that she's not there, but I feel like she kind of rests on her laurels, whether WWE wants her to or not, as far as like the mommy's always on top. Like I want to see actual promos, and I do think part of the problem is WWE itself, what they allow on television, because I've alluded to this a lot, and I mentioned this with Mr. Marceau here on the show. If you want to see the best Rhea Ripley promo I have ever seen, not to say she cuts bad promos because she doesn't, but she cut that promo after losing the Women's World Championship on Raw at this point over a month ago. It was after Raw that she cut this promo, when it was on WWE's YouTube channel. And she was like out of her mind, and she kind of referenced losing everything and not having any more friends, and she doesn't have the Judgment Day. Damian Priest went to SmackDown. Now she doesn't have her championship. She was about to reach her breaking point. And then the next week, instead of either showing that or recreating that promo, which they have done before in similar situations, they instead had her go out there and complain about losing the Women's World Championship because Bianca distracted her at ringside, even though that was inherently Bianca or Rhea Ripley's fault. You know what I mean? Like it comes down to complaining, and like the build up for that Women's World Championship match, we've seen the same segment copy and paste for the most part for the last 6 weeks, with Io Sky getting pie-faced, Bianca and Rhea facing off, no real meaningful mic work from any of them. And I think the buck doesn't stop with them. I can only blame them so much. It really doesn't come down to them. It's probably maybe them 10 to 15% of the problem, and WWE allowing them to say or not allowing them to say certain things I think is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not like malicious or deliberate. It's really just they have to actively make it a priority, and they have to intentionally put in the effort and like the attention to detail and it's unfortunate that they would have to do that, but like the industry is like male dominated, and all the really good storylines are with the men. So like you're going to have to put a little bit more TLC into the women's division. Like they have the foundation there. They have stories, they have the wrestlers. Like it used to be a conversation of, oh, they don't have any women's wrestlers or anybody with really good potential. Like they do. They have a lot. But the problem is they have to do something with what they're given.